This this little talk is based on some research that I did for the 100th anniversary of the Long Beach Airport. And it's really interesting that we would have Santa Monica and have uh, 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 Long Beach be some of the earliest airports owned by municipalities in the West. Long Beach was the first, but uh, Santa Monica comes in close uh, after them. So Southern California has now for over a century been a center of air and space flight exploration, air and space flight experimentation, manufacturing, and reshaping and challenging which has reshaped and challenged the economy, the culture, the demographics, environment, the political landscape, and the human imagination. Cloverfield, later known as Santa Monica Airport, was an early contributor when city officials had the vision to establish the municipally owned airfield in 1926. So how many people in the audience have knowledge of the origins of flying in Southern California in the early part of the 20th century? Okay, few folks do. So at the turn of the 20th century, before airplanes flew over the California landscape, hot air balloons passed through the sky when these contraptions were popular worldwide. Shortly after Wilbur and Orville Wright's 1903 successful demonstration of an airplane's capabilities of powered, sustained flight, California enthusiasm for flying began and intensified during the next few decades. The state's clear skies, moderate climate, and abundant, cheap land became tools to promote aeronautics and aviation in the development of aircraft and airfields and in attraction of aviators, air machine builders, risk takers, and entrepreneurs. Airfields would become symbols of the future of Southern California. And it was at this time that we have the starting of the area's ascent to being the aviation capital of the United States. Initially, an airplane was viewed as being a novelty. It was used for air stunt exhibitions, and at the same time, it was also viewed by many as technological progress towards a new, modern, alluring, and potentially practical method of transportation. In 1910, regional civic leaders and business community members seized the opportunity to stage the Los Angeles International Air Meet, which was viewed as an economic development and marketing tool to encourage people to visit, move, and invest in the region. The 10-day program, held from January 10th to the 20th, was the official major international air show, was the first official major international air show on U.S. soil. American aviator and aircraft builder Glenn Curtiss won the International Air Meet held in August 1909 in Reims, France. The rules specified that the winning nation would host the next one. Curtiss was based in Hammondsport, New York, and his flying colleagues brought the event to Southern California because of the mild winter climate and the wide open spaces. The Southern California competition featured American and European pilots of monoplanes, biplanes, hot air balloons, blimps, and a few other experimental machines that never got off the ground in competition. The Los Angeles Times called the Air Meet one of the greatest public events in the history of the West. It marked the advent of Southern California's aviation age as a city of Los Angeles and vicinity were becoming internationally significant due to the film industry, oil, and its new port. About 254,000 fascinated spectators from all over Southern California, including Santa Monica and beyond, bought tickets to attend the event. Every relevant American who was a flyer, potential manufacturer, or investor in aviation at the time was in attendance. 9-year-old Florence Lowe, who became known as the aviator Pancho Barnes by the late 1920s, attended with her grandfather, Thaddeus Lowe, who had been the chief aeronaut of the Union Army's observation balloon corps during the Civil War. He was also the founder of Mount Lowe over there in Pasadena. Some have claimed he was the father of the United States Air Force. So Boeing was in attendance at this air show. I meant to say that earlier. The Air Meet received worldwide press and moving picture newsreel program coverage, and all of this helped to establish air flight as something that was not a novelty. The world got the opportunity to view the superiority of the biplane for flight, and the airplane manufacturers would take this cue to build them as warships for World War I. The continued presence of the aviation and aerospace industries as an economic driver in the Southern California region and national economies is the biggest resonating legacy of this pivotal January 1910 event and the 3 other air meets that took place before 1930, all held at Dominguez Hills. In the post-World War I years, pilots flying surplus biplanes bought cheap from the U.S. military began using Clover Field informally as a landing strip. By 1922, Douglas Aircraft Company was formed and started producing and testing civilian and military planes at what would become Santa Monica Airport in 1923. He also had women test pilots during that era. The company would continue to produce aircraft in Santa Monica until 1975, when most production was moved to Douglas's Long Beach facility, which opened in 1941. In 1924, Douglas Aircraft Company built 4 World Cruiser airplanes named for the cities Seattle, Chicago, Boston, and New Orleans, which flew from Santa Monica to Seattle, Washington, the official starting place for the first successful round-the-world flight. The Douglas's airplane accomplishment of this round-the-world flight helped to set the foundation for the company to become one of the leading aircraft manufacturers for the U.S. Armed Forces and civilian airline companies in the 20th century, which would transform Santa Monica and Long Beach. A few lesser-known tales of Santa Monica and SoCal aviation history include women and people of color. In the early in the early 1920s, African American and indigenous woman aviator Bessie Coleman was in Los Angeles. After getting her flight training and pilot's license in France in 1921, by 1923, she thought Los Angeles would be a great place to pursue her dream of opening a flight training school, as she understood that the city and its surrounding areas would become a center of the nation's new aviation and movie industries. Coleman helped Coleman hoped to help African Americans with dreams of being aviators not to experience some of the difficulties that she had becoming a pilot. Though the color of her skin hindered her from getting flying lessons in the US, Coleman's skin color was now a novelty that would attract large crowds to see her do her death-defying feats in the air. She stored her airplane in Santa Monica, and unfortunately, in 1923, she experienced a crash nearby while practicing her show plan. She lived a few more years before she crashed again, and she died in Jacksonville, Florida in 1926. In Coleman's short, and lots of folks were dying like that too during that time period. Every time you turn around, you're reading about somebody and they did something really fabulous, and then whoop, they're not here anymore. In Coleman's short aviation career, she inspired many women and African Americans, including William J. Powell, James Herman Banning, and Marie Dixon Coker, to become airplane pilots. And she continues to be an inspiration for some today to pursue careers in the aviation industry. Other famed women aviators, which have been mentioned earlier today, such as Amelia Earhart and Pancho Barnes, also flew out of Santa Monica Airport in the late 1920s and 1930s, including as we've heard, the first women's air derby in 1929. By 1930, the Los Angeles Times noted that California had more than 1/4 of the 200 American women licensed to fly in the nation. So just think about that, in terms of what's going on here in California. Women were, trying to take over the skies if they could. There actually was also one woman that was in the first, in the second of the airmans also. So another lesser known aviation story is of James Maxwell and his wife, Ann Carter Maxwell, who moved to Santa Monica in the 1920s. James was a graduate of Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, where he was a school teacher and a principal. However, due to the era's discriminatory practices, James could not get hired in the Santa Monica school. Eventually, he got a job at Santa Monica Airport as a janitor, and from the 1920s to the early 1950s, he worked there until he retired. The Maxwells lived in the Ocean Park area, and they became homeowners and respected members of the African American community. James Maxwell was also an active member of the Santa Monica Venice branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and he served as a branch president for 7 years. The July 1940 issue of the Crisis magazine, published by the NAACP, cover headline read, "For Whites Only." The cover story celebrated that a well-educated aeronautical engineer James S. Dunning gained probationary employment at Douglas Aircraft, and they said it was in Los Angeles, as it described the discrimination that was occurring at the time. During the next few years, especially during the next few decades, during the next few decades, especially after the 1960 civil rights legislation, where with enforcement capabilities were instituted to push for equality in U.S. society, African Americans and other marginalized Americans would gain a few opportunities for work in broader array of positions in aviation, defense, and related industries beyond lower level maintenance jobs. During his career as the first Black aeronautic engineer, Dunning contributed to the development of the world-renowned DC aircraft line, including the DC-3 all the way to the DC-10. And he worked on the company's supersonic transport program. He retired from Douglas in 1979, and he had risen to be a senior vice president of administration. He was the first Black vice president of a major U.S. aeronautic company. So these stories are only a fraction of the broader histories of events and people who participated in making Santa Monica and the Southern California environs an aviation and aerospace industry center. The project to repurpose the Santa Monica Airport for a multifaceted park offers opportunities to look further into more inclusive aviation and aerospace histories and the social histories related to them in Santa Monica, California, the nation, and even globally, that can be told on the site to provide inspiration and knowledge.